Hello and welcome back to a really exciting video in that we finally have 2K25 announced and a release trailer which we can take an awful lot from and looks really exciting. There was loads packed into this short 2-minute video and I'm going to try and dig through the great as I see it, the good, the meh, and then a couple of the other changes that I noted that don't really fit into any of those. There'll be other people who focus a lot more on the pros and people involved in that. If you haven't yet watched the trailer, do head over and watch it after this video, but for the moment let's stick here and we will see what we can take from it. Enjoy! So the first thing that we're going to be looking at is the swing, and we'll start with the new, what looks like an EV swing, which looks much more nuanced than what we've got currently. At the moment you've got tempo, fast or slow, and you just string straight forward and straight back. Now this one looks like it has a lot more going on. We've got contact, which I assume is where it is at impact. Rhythm, which will be our usual tempo. Transition, which we were managing I think in the old game via fittings. I'm not an expert on the swing, but I assume that's how quickly you push forward. And then your swing path, which we're used to. What seems to be quite cool about this is that everything seems tilted, representing presumably a draw or a fade, and I guess could lead to hooks or slices, so more variant. Which you can see a little bit clearer in this splash shot out of the bunker. You can also see that the margin for error has shrunk. I imagine they're doing it on the same difficulty, so those windows get even tighter. And I quite like that on this screen where you can see the shot gets missed way out to the right, actually that input has tilted towards the left. So it means that we're going to be changing that based on the types of shot we're playing. So that's really cool because it leads to more variance, makes it more interesting and difficult. And it doesn't feel like you're playing the same mechanic all the time. Now obviously implementation of this is going to be huge, and hopefully it's more difficult and challenging, because what we want is to have it so that designers don't have to trick up courses and the game just plays interestingly even if there's bunkers only on the right of a hole. So the next thing I thought looked really cool was this skill tree, which they introduced the stinger through. So clearly we're going to have an ability to earn different shot types rather than everyone playing exactly the same way. Now my hope is that you can't maximise out absolutely everything. So you kind of have to choose a path and what you're good at, which would make it a more balanced and interesting game. Again, the word balance is huge, but the potential here is awesome. And we then get to see that stinger in game and it looks great. Just helps that we've got the mood lighting as well, but really classy shot to play and will be a load of fun. So whilst it might not be a designer specific thing, gameplay is the heart of everything we do, and if they make that more balanced and interesting and give you more options, that's only really good for us. So the next thing that really grabbed my eye was that we finally have fescue grasses, and hopefully this shows that they're listening. We've got some grasses that seem to render from a long distance, have loads of colour, and also look kind of variable in colour. You've got some yellows, some greens and everything in between. The courses we can see these on based on the trailer, and I think what I've got is Oakmont. I think we've then got Pebble Beach and Royal Portrush, where these look particularly good, and you can see a couple of those. Now if we have more control over different colours, that's great. If we have grasses that render properly and you don't have to blow things up to grandstand size, that would be really cool, particularly if they're easy to use. So that's kind of a we'll wait and see, but potential there's massive. And that leads me to my next point, which is the official courses they've featured for the most part, particularly the big name ones, so Oakmont, Portrush and then Pebble, look amazing. They look way better than some of the 23 models. Now, you can still see Scottsdale and Sawgrass, and I don't think those have had quite the uplift the others do, but for those being the three headline courses, for them to look really good is a big step forward in how 2K and HB view course making, and rather than just getting it out, actually taking the time to do it really well, which is brilliant. Obviously getting 3 of the 4 majors is awesome as well, and those 3 courses look great. It will hopefully add a load to career mode and feeling it's very authentic, and hopefully that's something that continues for years to come, as well as maybe one day adding Augusta. Linking from that, from the user created courses, we see Lone Grove coming back by Energizer. You can see Old Salem Creek, which is one of mine, and then Matthew from Canada's Yoho River, and I think this is the 11s Club by Victory Lane Sports, so we can assume there's a few more of those to come as well. Now the final one in my great list comes with a bit of a caveat in that I can't totally tell, but looking at this shot of Pebble, as well as a couple of others, and we'll dig in, It looks like they've done a big overhaul to bunkers and sculpting generally. We can see some shadows that we wouldn't have had before, much more defined bunker lips, and just generally feels like everything has gone a bit more high definition, which would be a huge news. Now, I don't have full proof of this, but I wanted to share one thing with you. So we're looking at Matt Fitzpatrick playing this shot out of a bunker, and this may seem small to you, but this is one of my courses that I built, which looks like it's been pulled into the game, which is great news. Now, let's contrast that with how it looked in 23. And you can see a huge difference. The bunkers, definition-wise, are much higher res. You can see more with the sand. The texture looks much different, I would say. The planting's still the same. And I think this is on the first hole from what I can tell. But there's just a lot more going on. It's quite cool seeing your own course featured in one of these and pretty surreal. But one that really kind of drove it home to me was then looking at this shot of Rahm hitting his stinger. And again, comparing that to roughly the same view of 23, you can see a lot finer detail than you could previously. The textures themselves, if you look at the grass off the tee, there's more to it. It's certain, I guess the only word I can come out with is high definition, or high res maybe. It looks a lot better, and I don't think that's purely done with camera work, but I want to see a bit more beforehand. You can kind of see the bunkers on the edge of this one, but we didn't really get that many good close-ups. So that's one where I'm holding out hope for future updates and something designer specific. But early instincts are pretty good, and it definitely helps when you know the course as well as I do. I had a couple of things in the good category for me. For the most part, I think this looks really promising. I think the player models, other than Tiger was pretty good last time, but the others, poor Tony Finau, for example, were really pretty lacking. I think from what I've seen in this one so far, they've paid much closer attention to the models of the players, and they look really recognisable. Additionally, I hope that we see some of these interactions between players, caddies, and viewers as well, because some of those little interactions, the high five, shouting for, if those come in, that again increases immersion and looks way better. Now, the final thing that really leapt out was what they didn't include in this trailer, which I really liked. I want to take you back to the announced trailer of 2K23, and we had all of these celebrity shots. Having none of that, and it just purely focused on the golf, shows me that they've understood a bit more of who the market is, because nobody, with the best will in the world, nobody wanted to see these people in a trailer. They just want to see the game. So seeing none of that kind of filler and fluff was brilliant. Now, probably seems a bit harsh to say meh, but there are a few things that I'm waiting to see a lot more on before I really comment. The social media influence part of career is something that doesn't interest me personally at all, and I'm really hoping that there's a proper revamp of career mode and it's not just a reskinned version of those challenges or sponsorships that we had in 2K23. Additionally, I like the look of the course XP. I want to know whether we can control that as designers. If I could set my own targets per course, that would be amazing, but I doubt it, and I worry that that might be something that then just becomes generic. But there's a really cool potential if that then fits into skill sets. Yeah, it depends totally how they implement that. Another thing I noticed was that we seem to have marshals on course now. That's cool. Doesn't make a huge difference to me, but it's a nice little thing and a realism touch. And I guess the final one is, as expected, there's not a huge emphasis on the designer itself, but then those of us who do design courses know that we are the minority of the minority who like this game. So that might come in future course, but really you can see a lot of how these courses present, and that's going to filter through. But I'm hoping for much more on that point in future. So obviously I was so excited with the trailer dropping, but I didn't even realise that this was live on their website. So if you haven't checked it out, there's some stuff on the features here, major courses, some stuff on the swing and shot types, which we can see through the video, as well as the roll physics and ball flights that you can tell with some of how the ball's bouncing. There's a bit more on the My Player, some seasons and other modes. And then there is a little bit of text on the course designer, which is great. So we have some new tools, which I'd always take over objects because you can make tools do whatever you want. Hard to guess what those might be. We can try. Surfaces, again, we can kind of guess what those are from some of the pictures, hopefully. Objects, given they updated all the tree models for 23, I don't think we'll get those changing much, but maybe. And then, as you could tell, we could spot the high-res terrain system they've been putting in place with the Salem Creek one that I saw. But you could see it elsewhere, and you could kind of suspect. But it's nice to have that confirmed as well. And then new camera systems could be cool. Hopefully, that means they're bringing back flyovers as well, and just generally pushing the designer a bit more to the forefront of this, because it's a game where if they harness the designer and showing people all the courses they could play, it would just be amazing for retention players. Digging into some of those screenshots, so Port Rush, you can see you've got this kind of fescue grass, which looks like it renders from a long way away, which is great, hopefully without blowing it up. And that seems to kind of react with the terrain underneath it, which is potentially a cool way of doing it. Maybe that's one of the tools. We've got a couple of different types of grasses. So you've got this one by the looks of it. There's a lower one and this one, but they kind of all blend together really nicely, which is good. And then same picture from a different angle. But you can also see we've got, and they said we've got new surfaces. Maybe we finally get a waste bunker texture and a normal bunker texture, because that'd be cool to blend the two together. Pebble obviously looks amazing, and hopefully these rocks are not just prefabricated purely for Pebble, and we can use those. Those would be cool objects to have. Like you've got some wetter ones and drier ones. Right. There's a lot of stuff that we could do with that. Hopefully we get the waves as well that we saw bouncing towards the coast on Pebble as well. Would be great. But if you haven't seen yet the comparison Seamount made between this and the 2K23 version of this hole, go and check it out. It's pretty staggering. And then the other courses I thought generally look better. You can see high-res sculpting coming into play on the bunkers. It's a lot easier to see on a still image. Here as well with the Paynes Valley course, and then again at Riviera you can see a steeper and more defined lip, so that's great. And we also seem to get Torrey Pines, which is awesome in the sense that it's a great property with a terrible golf course. Then I think I just spotted this. I think is Haute-Luce. I'm not certain, but I think this is one of mine from the past. Hard to tell, but it looks kind of like it. We've got Divot Derby, and I think this is Central Otago by Energizer, which is an awesome course. So great if they're putting that in. As mentioned, the social media stuff. This looks like the Football Manager part of the game that I always try and turn off with all this media stuff. So, couldn't really care much less. And then it looks like they've updated the pictures on the course themes. So that's cool. Maybe it means that themes are updating, which would be awesome because they need one. So that's about it. I think the 2-minute video incorporates an awful lot of what we've been wanting and hoping to see, and I think hints at a lot of changes that are happening behind the scenes with how the game is working and just the greater depth of it. I will want to see more from the designer in due course, and I've no doubt that we will get that. But there's certainly enough here to make me more excited than I was for the start of 2K23, which is only a good thing. So yeah, stay tuned and hopefully we'll have some more soon.